this video, I'm going to walk you through what filet crochet is, how to avoid the most common mistakes, and even how to change colors and finish with a beautiful border. And instead of tackling a whole blanket, we'll practice together on a small swatch drawn from the Heirloom of Heritage Blanket pattern. That way you learn all the skills on a mini piece before committing to a full blanket. By the end, you'll feel confident to take on the full project. So let's start from the very beginning. Filet crochet is a technique that uses just chains and double crochets to create open blocks and filled blocks. So here you can see the open blocks, and the filled blocks are these areas with the double crochets. When you put these blocks together, they form pictures, words, or even a beautiful geometric design. For example, in this blanket, the design uses a simple geometric pattern. But when you combine it with the colors, the deep blues, the purples, it comes together like a picture of a starry night. This was inspired by God's promise to Abraham in Genesis chapter 15 verse 5. So when I was designing this blanket, I imagined each chain stitch space as a tiny star, creating a tapestry of God's promise. Today we'll swatch just a few repeats from this blanket pattern so you can practice. And geometric filet crochet is really the best place to start because it's built on row repeats. This means you can build confidence without getting frustrated or using too much brain space. It's simple, rhythmic, and really satisfying once you get into the flow of it. So let's just get our yarn that we'll be using. I'll be using doubled up fingering weight yarn, which now makes it DK weight yarn, and a 4mm crochet hook. These are the same materials used for the pattern as well. The pattern calls for chains in the multiples of 6 plus 1. So for our swatch, we'll do 12 plus 1, which is 13 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 chains. From there, we are going to DC in the 4th chain from the hook. So this one on the hook doesn't count as a chain. You start counting from this one, right there. So 1, 2, 3. The 4th chain from the hook, that's where you start your double crochets. So you yarn over, insert your hook into the loop, pull up, yarn over, pull through twice, and you have your double crochet. So these first 3 chains that you left in the beginning count as your first double crochet. So you're going to double crochet in each of the chains to the end. So since, as you've said, these first 3 chains count as your first double crochet, you're going to start counting from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have 11 stitches in total. And that's where the first mistake starts, miscounting stitches. Even with the chains used in filet crochet, your stitch count will stay the same throughout. Count out loud and use stitch markers every few repeats if you must. But make sure the stitches you started with, in this case 11 stitches, are going to be the same number throughout the entire pattern. To keep the edges neat, I like to start each row with a stacked double crochet. If that feels too advanced, you can use regular standing double crochet or even a simple chain 2 if you're brand new. The point is to be consistent with what you're starting with. So to work a stacked standing double crochet, you turn your work, it's facing you, you turn it like so. And you insert your hook in this first stitch right here. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull. You have a single crochet. You're going to insert your hook into this left leg of the single crochet right there. So you can see, let me just split it up so you can see. We have the left leg of the single crochet over here and the right one just peeking over here. You're going to insert your hook in this pronounced left leg right here. Insert your hook and work another single crochet. So in essence, it's 2 single crochets on top of each other, and that makes a stacked standing double crochet. You have this neat double crochet look-alike stitch that provides a consistent place to work your next row, making counting and working into the last stitch much easier, as you'll see later in the video. So for row 2, The pattern calls for 5 double crochet, chain 1, and you skip the next stitch. So this counts as your first double crochet. So you're going to work 4 more. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to chain 1, skip this stitch, and double crochet in the next one. And you're going to work 5 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right there on the top of your beginning chain 3. And that's where mistake number 2 comes in if you're using turning chains. Forgetting to work on it at the end of the row. You have to make sure you don't skip it at the end. That's why I liked the stack standing double crochet, because with this technique it's hard to miss. You can tell it's a stitch, you can tell it's a double crochet just standing there. But whatever method you choose, as I said, you have to be consistent with it. Don't start chaining 3 in one row, then chain 2 in the next row, or start standing DC in the next. No. If you started with your chain 3, maintain it throughout. If you started with a turning chain of chain 2, maintain it throughout the pattern. To turn your work, you turn it like that. And again, for our first stitch, we work a double crochet in the form of a stacked standing double crochet. So we work a single crochet, and in that left leg of the single crochet, insert your hook and work another single crochet. We have our first stitch. Now for this row, we are going to double crochet in each and every stitch across. So when you get to the chain space, some people like to double crochet right into the chain space, which granted is easier, but for a smoother finish, I like to double crochet in the actual chain, not in the chain space itself. So what that looks like is this space you see right over here. That's where you insert your hook and double crochet. You can see it maintains a consistent look in where the double crochets are placed. Let me show you what it would look like with working in the chain space. You can see it's actually quite visible. It produces an inconsistency with the pattern, but don't stress yourself. If this is the method that works for you, well and good, you can use that. But remember, in each and every one of these things, it's just to be consistent. If you choose to work your double crochet into the space as opposed to the chain itself, make sure you maintain it throughout the pattern so it looks the same. So we're just going to go back and double crochet in the chain itself. And double crochet in each of the stitches to the end. You remember this was our first stacked standing double crochet, so you can see the space right here. That's where you're going to work. You're going to insert your hook and work your final double crochet. You can see it, right? You can also see, even without us going so far, that the edges are straight. So before we move on, here's another mistake you'll want to avoid: reading the chart wrong. If the filet crochet pattern you have has a chart, always check the row direction. Odd rows right to left, even rows left to right. This pattern, however, has written instructions along with a table for the PDF version that makes following your place in the pattern easy. So moving on swiftly to row number 4. You turn your work, and for this row, first you work our stacked standing DC, which is our first DC, and our second one, so that is 2 DC. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and 5 DC. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chain 1, skip the next, and 2 DC in the last. So here you have it. For the pattern, I didn't want the spaces to be aligned. I wanted them to to sort of have a staggered look. That's why you'll notice that for one row, the space will be here. For the next, it will stagger the original space. But that's basically what the pattern is. It's a repeat of these 3 rows. You're going to have one row that's 5 double crochet, chain 1, 5 double crochet throughout. The next row is a double crochet, and the next one following that will be a 2DC, 5 double crochet for however long, then 2DC in the last 2 stitches. That's how the pattern moves. So let me show you the next one. You turn your work, you work a stacked double crochet. After that, you're going to double crochet across, making sure if you started with a double crochet in the chain, you're going to double crochet in the chain here as well. If you prefer to double crochet into the chain space itself, maintain that throughout. So another mistake you can make, similar to the previous one, is skipping the last stitch. But this is especially common when you're using chains at the beginning of your rows, so just be keen. The same is true for the middle portions. For patterns that have repeats like this or chains, it's quite common to find yourself skipping or adding a stitch. So again, just be keen as you work. For the first few rows that you're working your pattern, just count the stitches to make sure everything is flowing right and you've gotten the rhythm of how everything flows. This leads us to another mistake, which is tension issues. Loose chains or uneven double crochets make holes that are too big or too tight, disrupting the uniform grid. This can be helped by making a swatch before your project. I know a lot of us don't like swatching, but if it's your first time working on a project, or if it's your first time working on a technique, it's usually advisable to just swatch. Just swatch it. Swatch it, friends, before your project to see how your tension is and how your stitches flow, and what method you'd like to use. For this one, whether you'd like to use turning chains or stacked double crochets, whether you'd like to double crochet in the chain spaces or in the chain itself. Just do a swatch to get the feel of it. And don't be discouraged. Every crocheter makes mistakes. The key is to catch it early, to learn from the ones you make, and to move on. If you've stayed with me this far, my next tip will make your crochet life so much easier. Just keep an eye on your stitches, because this is where filet crochet often goes wonky. To keep your edges neat and straight, use a stacked standing double crochet at the start of each row. Learn a new stitch. And if you're using chains, if the stacked double crochet just doesn't work for you and you're using chains, always treat that chain 3 or chain 2 that you choose to work with as your first stitch. Don't forget it, don't skip it. Place your double crochet there. And if you're seeing it's getting a bit too complicated, place a stitch marker there if you tend to miss it. If you've seen you've made the mistake twice, take a stitch marker, mark it, and move it every row until you get the hang of it. And again, for the first few rows, count your stitches at the end to make sure everything lines up. See how these small habits keep your fillet grid looking crisp and balanced? That's the secret to a polished project. It's going slow and steady at the beginning and trying to avoid the mistakes I'm telling you about, and then you can just build your speed as you go. Now, you might be wondering, what if I want to add color? Let me show you exactly how to do a clean color change. So the trick with fillet crochet color changes, essentially all color changes really, is to switch yarns on the last yarn over of the stitch before the new color starts. So here, let me show you the color change over here. So again, what I did in this pattern is I doubled up yarn because there were so many color changes. Okay, not so many, just 5. You see how sometimes the night sky shifts just before sunrise and you get that seamless color change? I wanted that color change to sort of be reflected in this blanket pattern. So that's why I doubled up on the fingering weight yarn. I also have a bunch of it, but anyway. So what I did was, let me just remove here because we're going to make our color change on this last stitch right here. So you're going to fasten this off. And what I did, I took one strand of the old color. So instead of finishing your double crochet in your old color, you drop it and pull through with the new color. That way the next block begins seamlessly into the new shade. A bonus tip for color changes in the Heirloom of Heritage Blanket: For the rows labeled blend rows, I worked with one strand of the old color, which is purple here, and I took one strand of the new color, which I've chosen gray, and just held them together. And this is what I used for 2 rows to create a blend. So the old color shifts slowly and the new color begins slowly. It softens the shift and avoids a harsh line. I didn't want that harsh line. Some projects you can pull that off, but for this particular one, I wanted a softer transition. So after you join in your new color, you turn your work and you work your stacked double crochet. Then you see in the previous row over here, in our previous fillet crochet row, we worked 2DC, chain 2, then 5 all the way to the end, then we worked 2DC. So that means the next fillet row is going to be a 5DC one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You chain 1, skip this, and 5 double crochet. And there you have it. This is the blend row. So after the blend row, if I want to work another color change and incorporate now the gray color, I'm going to finish this double crochet with 2 loops on my hook like this with this old color. Then I'm going to snip that off and now join in 2 strands of the gray yarn, and you're going to turn your work, do a stacked double crochet and double crochet in each stitch across, maintaining consistency throughout in terms of where you'll place your double crochet over here. You see, it's a blend. There isn't such a harsh line when you're shifting from the purple to the gray. That's why I included the blend rows. It's much more evident on the blanket pattern itself. As you can see, the color slowly shifting from black to navy to royal to purple, then finally to maroon. It produces a nice night sky effect. From here, you'll continue on with the pattern. You might finish it and leave it as is, or you might decide to add a simple border. Especially if you're working with turning chains, you'd like to do at least 1 round of a border to keep everything looking nice. What I did was work a simple single crochet border round. You're going to work 2 single crochet in each of the double crochets you see over here. You're not going to work 3 or odd numbers or weirdness. For each double crochet you see, work 2 single crochets. And for the corner spaces, you're going to work 3 single crochets. So 3 single crochets in the corner, and then 2 single crochet on the edges over here. And at the bottom, you're going to work just 1 for every stitch available. Right? Right. Then you can keep it simple from there and add double crochets or even a more stitch border, which adds both texture and stability. If you'd like to learn it, I've linked my more stitch tutorial for you to check out. So if you want to do your border, and man, we have edges. We have a lot of edges. I also have a tutorial on how to weave in these edges so they don't come loose and they don't get seen. I've linked it in the description box below. So when you're done, you're not going to turn your work. If you start working on the border, you're not turning your work. You're just going to either start off with a single crochet. That's what I do. I just start with a single crochet right off the bat. And we have said we work 3 single crochets in that first corner. This is the corner. So for that first DC, you're going to work just 1 SC. Then move on to the next. We work 2 single crochet. Move on to the next. We work 2 single crochets. Move on to the next. 2 single crochets. Next, all the way down. When you get to this last double crochet, you're going to work 1 SC, and then at this corner you work 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. Then for this side it's quite easy because you're just going to work a single crochet in each of the stitches all the way across. Again, when you get to this last double crochet, you're going to work 3 single crochets in this corner right here, because that's the corner space. That's the corner. 1, 2, 3. Then you work 1 single crochet as you're turning to go on the next edge. And I've said from here, two SC in each DC space, in each DC stitch all along. And another thing I learned is, if you can try not to work your single crochets right over that double crochet, it would really help avoid gaps as you're working this border. You can see I'm not working into that space provided right here. I'm trying to find a stitch right in the middle of that DC and work 2 single crochets in that space like that to avoid spaces. So you continue all the way, and again when you get to this last DC, you work 1 single crochet. Then at that corner that you're going to turn, you work 3 stitches. Then you have made your turn, and you work 1 single crochet in each stitch across now. And when you get here, you join to your first single crochet. It's a bit tight. Then you'll fasten off. You can see the single crochet gives it a bit of structure, so it's not so stretchy or loose. Right? Righty! As you can see, the pattern works well without a border, with a single crochet border, just 1 row, or with the more stitch border. However you'd like to do it, it's up to you. And that's filet crochet in a nutshell. What it is, common mistakes to avoid, how to keep your edges straight, switch colors, and finish off with a border. If you want to try the full Heirloom of Heritage baby blanket, I'll leave the link down in the description. But even just practicing with this swatch builds the skills you need for any filet crochet project.